Well, hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. Here with me, Chantelle, your hostess with the mostess, and I can see myself lagging. So, yeah, I hope the internet takes a minute to settle itself as it usually does, and then we can get on with guess what we're talking about tonight, guys? Vampires again. Vampires. I kid you not. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm actually super excited because Beverly and I were just talking off air for a minute. Um, the whole topic on vampirism goes so far and so deep. So, yeah, I think we're going to be chatting a little bit more about that. But anyway, before we go ahead, I'm just going to pop up this week's media schedule. And then I'm just going to talk us through what's going on for the rest of the week here on Ara with all you lovely people. So, of course, tonight is a Beverli Rhodes. We're chatting with her right now as we speak. Then tomorrow, Jamie J. Yay. New guest. Jamie J is amazing. She's a researcher. So, we're going to be talking a lot about MK Ultra, different types of programming, that Jamie has. She herself is not a survivor, but brilliant researcher and has done a lot of research over the years. So we're going to be picking her brain a little bit tomorrow night. And then, of course, Jessie, Double Trouble on Wednesday. Um, we will probably be doing Q&A possibly this week because I know Jess was not feeling great at all this week. So we didn't have a show. We had some reruns. So if you missed those were also previous membership shows, so you guys are welcome to go catch them. The one was the Jezebel Spirit, I do believe, and I can't remember the other one now offhand. And then, of course, Thursday, Dr. Dennis Carroll, 6 o'clock Central Africa time, which is the same as time as we are now. And then another guest, Dr. Julia Engel, very, very interesting Montauk survivor as well. Super, super interesting and has walked quite a journey as a survivor as well as a doctor. Spent time in Russia. Very, very interesting indeed. So catch us on Thursday at 8 o'clock Central Africa time. And then, of course, guys, on Friday, the 10th of the 10th, the launch of the Honeycomb Tales Adventures from the Ankara Field. That is the book. Well, it's supposed to be a kid's book. It is a kid's book too, but it's certainly for adults too. I've had great fun writing it and humming it into being. So yeah, we're launching it on Thursday on 10/10, right, October. So yeah, super excited about that, and it'll be on Amazon, on hard copy as well as Kindle. And then of course there might well be one or two other shows that we're going to be popping up. Um, I know Penny Bradley as well. I've got to do another interview with her, so I know, guys. Time has just been running away from us at the moment, but hey, we're back. So anyway, I just want to say great big welcome to everybody in the chats. Nice to see you here again. And what else is that? Oh, October, Dr. Gary Wayne on the 29th of October is going to come back onto Aris. So diarize that one, Dr. Gary Wayne, on the 29th of October, just to give you a little bit of a preview on that. But anyway, I think, yeah, let's see what Madame Beverly has to say about the vamps. Taram, yes, she is. Hello, lovely. How are you?
Hello.
Are you well?
I'm well, and just first of all, congratulations on your book and the fact that you're launching this week. It's, as an author myself, it's a big deal. So, congratulations. I love it. It's beautiful. And I was very blessed and honored to be given a pre copy so that I could read through it. It's gorgeous. And I think it's not just for children, it's definitely for adults too. I love it. Well done. And I'm sure you're going to do very well with the book. And it has a great message. It really does. So, well done.
Thank you, Beverly. And of course, you look forward. So thank you for that. So definitely features. And yeah, super excited. Never in a million years did I dream I'd actually write a kid's storybook. I mean, you all know that I've done the other stuff with kids education stuff, with meditation and energy, and run plenty of workshops teaching animal communication and stuff like that, or not teaching. I mean, you don't really need to teach a kid anything. All we do is just remind them of what's there, that, when they're born onto earth, that they sometimes forget. But wow, what an experience, because it just occurred of itself. It was so amazing. I mean, I was still planning the relaunch of Solutions, which is still happening, by the way, guys. But I was busy with that, and then zoop, literally a week or 10 days away from the planned stuff, zoop, my whole mind was diverted to the kids' stuff again. And then it's like the characters were just born, in my mind, and they like take on a life of their own. And I can now see like what an author means when they have to study or they become the character, or even an actor or an actress, right? They'll study a character and they literally become that. For me, they were just waiting to be born, and they were waiting to come alive. So I had such fun engaging with these little characters in my mind. So I hope you guys enjoy it as much as what I've enjoyed creating it. And of course, Mornay's done a fantastic job of, as usual, putting the creative stuff. And I've got to send you the final copy, Beverly. It is amazing.
Well, I love the idea for the cover and the animation for the little ones. It's fantastic. It's not only is it charming, but the message, the underlying message is very, very beautiful. So I think
I want to just
go.
I want to just show you guys. Sorry to interrupt you, Beverly. This is we're doing like little daily promos for the book, and I want to just show you guys. This is what we've done so far. But obviously, it also comes with the little caption of what it says as well. I wonder which one this is now. No, it's this one here that comes first.
It's so cute. It's so cute.
Where did he go? He doesn't want to hum now.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
That's what we've done so far. How cute is that?
It's very cute. It's just absolutely diddums. It's the sweetest little thing ever. And I love it that it's bringing an awareness to bees as well. Because, without bees, there'd be no food on this planet. So I think you're hitting a lot of different messages there, Chanti, which is fantastic.
Well, the thing about bees is they were really the original manifestations of Creator God, because everything started with frequency. If we think about it, remember, we always say everything was created from sound, frequency, and vibration. So the frequency that the bees hold, and this is why the bees are so important. I mean, this. They're little cryptids. By rights, they shouldn't be flying, because the ratio of their little wings to the bodies is too small. And literally, when they flap their wings, they make the hexagon shape, which is the divine shape. I mean, that's why so much on Earth has been inverted using the honeycomb, right? The original shape of geometry, And they invert it by turning it into the inverted hive, like the queen and her slaves. That's not how it is at all.
No.
It's about one, like many people serving or coming together with a consciousness. So working together with a singular style consciousness. You don't obviously think the same, but you have an understanding and you have a desire to work together. So it's amazing. It's been super cool, actually.
Oh, it's gorgeous, and all the work you've done, and all the graphics and the images and all your illustrations, absolutely amazing. I mean, it's worth it just to get the book just for the illustrations alone, which is gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it'll be on Amazon, and of course, South Africans. I'm going to definitely. Unfortunately, they're not printing on Amazon in South Africa yet.
Oh,
So it's going to take me a couple of weeks longer just to get the South African. I mean, you can order on Amazon, but to get the book here costs you $50 or $60
oh my goodness.
just to post it from Amazon.
Mm.
So yeah,
What
which is
about going
which
to
is ridiculous, right?
what about going to central news agencies, CNA, and see if CNA can do it?
Yeah, but I've got to have it printed. Yeah.
Oh,
So we're
oh,
printing it here. We've got to also, print it here as well, and then we can actually take it out. Put it out on Takealot and places like that. So we
oh yeah.
can do obviously a similar to Amazon type thing,
Mm.
but we've just got to get costing, and it's yeah. So excited, everybody!
That
Yay!
is well
Looking
done.
forward to
I'll
that.
bet you're nervous. I'm sure you must be nervous, but I think that, 10:10 is a perfect time to be sending it forward and sending it out and birthing it into life. It's fantastic. Well done.
And I'm born on 10. I'm born on 10 February, 10/2. So that's
10:2.
good.
So
Thank you,
yeah,
everybody. And I like my shirt too. I decided I'd go bold today.
I like the bold shirt. I think it's awesome. It suits you. Get ready for summer.
Thanks. Exactly. Although the wind is blowing gale force today. But
Well,
anyway,
yeah.
so now that I've done my gushing for today, you've got more stuff to tell us about vampires. So fire away.
I'm going to fire away. Yes, there's been a call that came through from Bulgaria, and there's a wonderful man that I know there in Bulgaria. So I'm going to be calling him back shortly. But for those of you that didn't realize that Bulgaria is like central station for the vampires, it is like that's got the most cases of corpses that have been dug up. Hi, Bev, and hello, Lulabelle. And it's got the most corpses that have been put into the ground that have got either a stake through the heart, or have got metal stake through the heart, or even in some cases a rock in the face, or alternatively they even have farming implements that have been put through the heart to make sure that whatever it is, this person couldn't get back up and carry on doing what they were doing. So there's a lot of history in Bulgaria, a lot of areas that have not just folklore, but they have lots of eyewitness accounts of. So I didn't realize that Bulgaria is very similar to certain areas across the United States. And as you know, a couple of weekends ago, a group of us went up to one of the areas that is very well known for vampire sightings, and individuals that are not just perhaps truly vampires, but those that are following the vampire way. So it's a very interesting fact. I didn't realize that Bulgaria had so much law about it and so many graves, because I did some research, and I know that Ivan is in Bulgaria at the moment. So I will be calling him to find out, what have you found out? Where are you? What area are you in? Hundreds of questions, which will be great. And maybe if he's still that side of the world by the time I get back to the UK, at least from UK to Bulgaria, it's not such a long flight. So that could be lots of fun. So watch this space. But yeah, there's a lot of good information to be had in Bulgaria. People have been asking me things like, does garlic work? what can I do? What can I do to make sure that I've got something that can protect me, so that if one of these beings decides to target me and wants to do something, well, yes, there are things that you can do. Garlic doesn't necessarily work because it's a blood thinner. So basically, if you have the garlic, or you're eating a lot of garlic, that just thins the blood, just makes it easier for them to drink. So I would stay away from the garlic if I were you. But one thing that really does work, and we used to have these around the house before, is pink roses. So you can put pink roses outside the house or around the back entrance, etc., and that does help. But you can also take the not just the pollen, but you can take the petals and dry them in the oven, and then crush them down and mix them either with oil or oil and water, and then you can use that as a spray. They don't like the energies and also the enzymes that are in the color pink roses. So that does help a lot too.
Must be because it represents love.
Yeah,
It does. Because if you think about what a pink rose represents, it's the flower actually for the heart chakra.
It is.
Which is representing love. So when it just shows, these guys are so lacking in love. There's such a lack of love, creation, good, anything joyful. I mean, makes them completely sick, doesn't it?
It does a bit. It takes a while for them to lose all their humanity. It does take a while. And I will say that, during being the nanny vamp, or vamp nanny, or whatever you want to call it, during those times when I was, making sure that the delivery of the volunteers, the volunteers that have agreed to be food source, that you see them, they've gradually progressed. But then some of them, in fact, I must say there must have been more than half, definitely more than half actually, that when we used to go back, when it was our turn to go back, because we only did once a month, others did the other weeks. So we did once a month towards the end of the month. That was our cycle. Other people did like the beginning week and then the middle of the month and that. So by the time we went back again, there was already like 3 weeks that had happened in between. So if one of them had been taken poorly, or was not well, or was not coping, or couldn't get through all the transition, sometimes you'd go back, and instead of having 3 of them sitting there, there'd only be 2. And I would just look and see what was going on, nosy Parker, and then go back and sit in the kitchen. But what is this? You better all start your rose gardens. I see pink in my future. Cheeky monkey. Cheeky. Cheeky. Oh dear. Yeah, so I think that a lot of those that had chosen the path, they didn't make it. And I would go as far as to say, individuals that had chosen, I mean, I don't know why you would choose that life. Let's face it. Why the hell? It's like, hell no. But why would you choose that life? Why would you choose that life yourself? I don't know. But some of the ones that were there that had chosen that life for themselves, they didn't get through the transition. They don't make it. They don't. And I think it's as high as, if I try to remember, I think oftentimes, sometimes you go back and there was only one of them, which means that the others didn't make it. So there was a lot of that was happening. And I would say it could be as high as 85 to 90% of those that we were looking after. You could see there was a high level of traffic where they're going in, they're trying to do this, they're trying to make it, and then just suddenly they're gone. So they didn't make it. They don't make it through. So this idea of saying it's going to take 3 days, or that I think is more popularized by Hollywood. It's not actually factual.
Yes, a question here. There's just a couple of questions popping up, so I'm just gonna go through them. Where do you think that this is from Aquana? We have spoken about that before somewhat in our other shows, but maybe we can just go over that again. And where did vampires originate from? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a couple of schools of thought with this. The one school of thought is that they are off-world, and that they are the types that have got stuck here, or they're a type of being or species that got stuck here and have been trying to get back, and that their makeup within their bodies and their beings is very different to us. And the only way of continuing their species as such is to continue to turn individuals, which is very, very hard, as we've actually realized now. It's very hard to do that. But also that particular species is allowed to have a type of cross-pollination or cross-mating, which does allow then the progeny from that cross-mating then becomes what they call a true vampire, somebody that is born from a male and female that are both vampires. So that's the one side. The other school of thought is that it was one of the largest witches' covens that provided the energy and the changes for them to be created. That's the other school of thought, that, and this apparently goes back for centuries and centuries. So there's two different schools of thought with this. It could be either. I mean,
What did your handler say about that? I mean, he was obviously quite involved with the vamps.
He was, yeah. He was.
What did he? I mean, do you remember what he would have had? I guess quite a bit of knowledge on that. And can you remember what he told you about them?
Well, he was extremely involved with both Satanists, but also the Freemasons as well. And his view was that they were created by the Satanists, and that they were a product of Shaitan. That's where they were created and how they were created, which was his view, to say, well, that's why we had the help of various covens in different areas to look after them. And he would say, we need to look after these beings, we need to look after these people, because they are part of our creation. And that was one of the ones that was going around in the head a lot. And he would make it, if I'd get a bit annoyed, because you get, when you're a child, you don't really want to be going out, you don't really want to be going into a house that smells like rotten meat, and you definitely don't want to be sitting there at the window looking out when it's freezing cold and it's horrible. All you want to be doing is playing dollies in your room. That's what you want to be doing. Well, that was me anyway. I wanted to just be back in the house, locked in my room, and with my own self, my own thoughts, and playing whatever games I wanted to play. So from that point of view, because I used to get a bit annoyed and get arsy. I had an arsy personality, and I would say, why do we have to do the why? You get this nonsense where you just don't want to get in the car and you don't want to do this, and then you end up getting threatened. But he was saying these people have been created by these particular types of witches centuries ago. So he bought into, his fact within himself was that these were created by particular mages. And we know the mages are very powerful. The mages created them. I'm not sure how, I've no idea how, but this is what he believed. And that's why it was our responsibility. And he used to use that word. We are responsible for these people. They were created by us, i.e., that particular sect created them. And that's why we had to go and look after them. So that was what he believed, yeah.
It definitely resonates with me more, that they were created by some evil force, a bit like the Tokolosh as well.
Yes,
but
yes.
I would think though, if I'm just intuiting that there would have been bodies involved. So obviously it would have been the body of a person that had maybe done something wrong or was being cursed by a witch or something like that. That literally there was a curse put on a specific type of curse that would clearly be irreversible. So the only way then to maintain your bloodline is by contaminating others.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to happen overnight, it's a process. That's what it feels like to me. Seriously, as I'm saying that, it's like that feels resonant to me, that's how these creatures have been created. And it's like an irreversible process, because when you speak to some of the people that have been real operators in the dark, they say to you that there are some things that you cannot return from.
Yeah.
Now, this to me would be one of those things that you cannot return from. And the same to me would be lycanthropy, okay, that you can't return from. It's like a virus or
Yeah.
a curse or a something that is injected or done to the person, some spiritual uh, chemical change that has had to take place. Think about that. I mean, if you also think about what you were saying to us about all the doctors and the medical people
Yeah.
involved
Yeah.
in
Loads.
child transportation, think about what the alchemists could have been doing back then as well. And obviously, there was some kind of deranged spirit waiting to be born through the right physical makeup, right?
Exactly.
So
Yes.
the curse would have had to be of that nature that this deranged spirit could integrate with it, operate, and procreate from it. So, because they can have babies like humans, do they have the same kind of system like humans?
They have a different system. So one of the main systems is that they have the two, which is very interesting, and most people don't. I think most people don't know this. The first system is they have the council, so they have a vampire type of council, and that was very closely related to the various types of witches and covens. And they originally, apparently, centuries and centuries ago, they formed and served on some of the vampire councils. So they have a council that is overseeing all of them, so to speak. So that's the one thing. The second area that is very little is known about these. In fact, I think we only had one or two incidents where um, it was a group called the Elders. I don't know them as anything else. I've never heard of what their real names would be, no idea. But they were called the Elders. And the Elders were the ones that, oh, well, obviously are thousands of years old, or 500, 600, 700 years old, whatever. And they are the ones that keep not the population, but they keep the various tribes of vampires under control. And if you have one or two of like the masters or others that were maybe creating havoc or saying things that they shouldn't say, I think that's really what the Elders were doing. And one of the ones was one of the men, the one that used to sit closest to where the fireplace was. He was getting ready to leave. He was getting ready to be sent out to another country. And I remember hearing them talking about Switzerland was one of them, and I think Canada was the other one. It was an area in Canada, and they were organizing to have him sent there. But I think that the elders had also heard about this new one that was going to be sent out of the country to go and take up residence in another country. And I think the elders had something to do with that. So that is the one incident that I knew there was trouble. And I don't know why they took exception to this particular one chap. I don't know why they took exception to him. Maybe he was just a difficult person, or maybe he wouldn't shut up, or maybe he wouldn't, or maybe he was just too outgoing and he wouldn't sort of try to live underneath the shadow, underneath the radar, and be very careful. I mean, we are talking about sort of 60s, 70s, those sort of, mainly the 60s, those sort of eras where, you know, people were very different in the 60s to what they are now. And I think that that was the issue, because I remember those two words. Things like, what is the council say? Have the council approved? So that's how I knew the council was something that was up there. The second one was the elders. The elders are the old ones, the ones that came centuries ago. So they are the two that I'm aware of. There might be more. There might be now worldwide. There might be more. There might be more layers to it. I don't know. I mean, I'm going back many years. But yeah, when you look at it, you've got a vampire that runs Istanbul. So obviously he must have been quite high up in the pecking order, so to speak, or the biting order. So they would have been ones that were put into Istanbul, and that Istanbul is still run by a vampire. I know one or two people that have been in his presence, shall we say, and felt very uncomfortable, and then gapped it and got out of there.
To me, it would be, I'm trying to think if we go back, because it makes a lot of sense that these obviously are not petri dish creatures or creations. These were humans at one point who chose immortality, but chose it down the dark path, because that's one thing that the vampires require or lust after is immortality. They want to live forever. It's like, I've done so much evil, I have no way that I can go and face my maker. So let me see how I can stay here and create my own paradise.
Oh gosh,
Paradise.
stinky
I mean, I'm
paradise.
like, what would, okay, but for them it would be paradise, because they have control. They can literally, obviously, with that, because let's think about it. When they chose that path, and then they know it's a path of no return, right?
Yeah.
So you've constantly got to sustain yourself with blood, and preferably young blood, because now we know why they're looking for young blood, right?
Oh yes, we
So
do.
then that would make them these nocturnal, not just nocturnal, but dark creatures that could only feed off blood, and have to be extremely manipulative, cunning, clever, 10 strokes ahead of the rest to
Yeah.
get what they want. So they obviously have some entity that works through them that is very psychic, or yeah, psychic, whatever, call it psychic, right? That can then show them the way where they don't get caught, where they, it's like the watchdog. Whatever entity they're working for is their watchdog. So they don't get caught. They can procreate. They can find the right girls or kids or boys or whatever it is they want. Wow.
The interesting fact was that, you know, the new ones that I was helping on seeing, and you know, became part and parcel of the, you know, week 4 was our week of going and doing the feeding, etc. What was interesting is to see how those people, they changed, and they were all men. There were never any girls or women or anything, and there was never a young person ever. In the whole time, there was never a young person. So most of them, I would say, not that I was really good at judging ages. I mean, everybody to me, I mean, when you're that age, everybody to you looks old. So I don't think they were all old. I think some of them, if I think back on it, maybe they were maybe in their 20s or maybe in their 30s. There were one or two that maybe were in their 40s. But to me, I mean, they all looked old, because they do. When you're a child, everybody that's that age, you think are old. Even if they're just in their 30s, you still think they're old. But a lot of them changed dramatically. And a lot of them had like unusual things that would happen with them. Like one of them would always, the one that sat by the fire was the best example, because when we would come in, we'd have to come in, walk straight to the kitchen, put the lunchbox down, get through the swing doors, and then get the ladies out, and so they could sit in front of each of them and get ready for food time. And I would sometimes, in my mind, I would say, oh, wish I was at home, or this is boring, or the comments, that the back chat that you have in your mind when you're young, and you're just like, do I have to do this? I'm hot for all of this now. So I would walk past, and you could see it was almost like he was hearing that I was annoyed in my head. And you could see him. He would watch me walk into the kitchen, and then he would say something like, well, you don't have to be here if you don't want to. And then my handler would turn and say, who are you talking to? And he said, well, to her, to the little one, to her. I said, but she never said anything. And then I realized, oh my goodness, he can hear what I'm saying in my head when I'm getting annoyed, especially if it's like one of those days where actually it's cold, I'm cold, it's raining, I'd rather be in the house, and I'd rather be in my room playing dollies. And this thing realized, oh, that's what she's saying, and then went and answered me. And I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go. Let me just open my lunchbox and let me just eat very quickly, because that was it. And they all had they had different things. There was some that was very, very, very shiny. And then there were others that could almost not float, but in a way it looked like they could float. But that particular one that sat by the fire, he was able to read minds. He was able to hear exactly what you were saying in your head. So I just had to make sure that I didn't say too much in my head, so that when I got there, it was almost as clear as possible, which was most important for me. So they have different things and different, like almost gifts and things that happen to them, but they're all very different.
Did they ever talk to you, like have conversations with you, other than following you around like a weirdo pervert vampire with his eyes?
I didn't actually. They were never really interested too much in me. They were more interested in, what my handler was bringing, more interested in, where their next meal was coming from, especially if last week, whoever's dude was on duty the last week, whoever was bringing the volunteers. And these women that were brought, these were women that had volunteered. I mean, they were cooperating. They had decided that is what they would do. I mean, I don't know why they decided that, but they did. And some of them, and I will say that some of them, particularly there was, I think, 1 or 2 women that every 2 or 3 months they would come back and say, I feel well enough now. I've got over the last draining. I'm prepared to go back again. And I'd see them and they would greet me. They would do that whole bobbing of the head, and that's about it. And then they'd go back again. But some of them particularly bonded, or found that they really, really liked one of the vampires that they were servicing. And I think that later on, those individuals became what they call familiars. So in other words, those volunteers that were volunteering the red liquid that runs through your veins as a food source for those individuals, they became the familiars for them. Because some of them you didn't see again for ages, you didn't see them. But this is where that bond was created, where certain women decided to give it.
Explain how they become familiars for the vampires.
So the familiars are those that have like a connection to the person that has been feeding off them. that
Like
then allows
like the
them.
Stockholm syndrome almost.
It's
Sorry to
almost,
interrupt
I
you.
would say, yeah, I think you're right, Chanti. Having a think about it now, many years later, I think you could be right. It's like, they have, I think you're right, they've fallen in love in a way,
And
or
they
they,
become addicted as well. It's
exactly.
like it's like as you're speaking, sorry to interrupt you, Beverly, I don't mean
That's
to,
all
but
right.
it's exactly like that Stockholm syndrome. It's like the feeder becomes as addicted to the one who's feeding, or the feeder and the one that's being fed on. I don't know, what do you say?
Yeah,
And it's almost like there's something they release in the blood of the person they suck in on that creates that magnetism. They tag them.
yeah,
They
they do take.
tag them. Oh my gosh, that's why they keep going back. It's like there's a magnetism that keeps drawing them back. So they keep wanting to go back. And they don't know why. Because who would want that? No one,
Exactly.
unless you got something operating through you that is not quite human. It's taken your humanity. Not only is it taking your blood, but it's taking your soul every time it sucks from you. Why? And that's how these guys get more and more psychic. Oh my gosh, Beverly, because the more they drink that life force, they're sucking their psychic life force as well.
Oh, that makes perfect sense, and that is what happens. Is eventually there is particular women that become these familiars. So a familiar for a a vampire is somebody that is totally committed to that vampire. Will help
Yeah,
feed them when they need to be fed, in an area that's
exactly.
not commonly seen. So they will have, somewhere on the shoulder, or they'll have somewhere on, one of these small veins, or they'll do something like that, where they can help feed. But a familiar is someone that is totally committed to that vampire. And it's not a bed type thing where you're in love with that person and want to take that person to bed. It's not that at all. It's a different type of relationship. It's someone that
Absolutely. Get it.
absolutely trust, and it's someone that is, in normal society, that walks around and is a normal human being, but every now and again will get called upon by this particular vampire to go and do a feed. But that one will be the one that, if the vampire turned around and said, I need you to go to that place, and I need you to book me a flight, or I need you to book me a passage, and I need you to send this, or I need you to do that, or I need you to go and do X, Y, and Z, without even considering their family, what they're doing, how they're doing, that familiar will go and do it, because their allegiance and their loyalty is 100% to the vampire.
Totally. Makes, and if I, what you're saying now, about a week or so ago, I interviewed Chris Latera, Montauk survivor who was involved in BDSM,
Oh, bless.
and explaining about the master and the slave. I mean, this sounds totally the same,
Yeah.
where you have that master slave, or that complete um, codependent relationship. So the slave is as addicted to the master as what the master is addicted to that slave. The behavior more than anything. And then, of
Yes.
course, we're looking at this now. You're talking about the vampires and their um, familiars, right? Same thing. I mean, and that's why I say, to me, there's this the minute that thing touches you, or it puts its disgusting teeth in you. That's why I get so creeped out every time I think about that thing's teeth anywhere near me. I mean, I just want to go, because it's so much more than teeth. It's
Oh, yes,
so
it
much
is.
more than saliva. It's so
Mm.
much more than they're getting off on sex magic. It's actually stealing a part of your soul every time they suck your blood. They suck your life force as well, and thereby, of course, then lay the feeder's body or
Yeah.
the familiar's body open, wide open for all sorts of other entities to hitchhike on, right? To
Yeah,
use
that's
that
it.
as a
Yes.
host body.
Yeah, it does, and that is definitely part of it. But it's more than just the teeth thing. The teeth react in a different way. It's sometimes when we used to get there, the teeth was, you couldn't tell. The teeth were still inside. You couldn't see them, and you would only see, when they used to get really hungry and start growling or get really angsty because they're hungry, then the ladies would sit at the bottom. But also, you would find that when they started sweating, they would put their hands on the women, and they would talk to the women, and they would try to almost like cajole them. But they're very good at the gift of the gab. These creatures, they're extremely good at it. And that even though these volunteers had volunteered, sometimes when they get into the house and they would see, it's a one thing being somewhere else and romanticizing things and saying, oh yeah, of course I'll do that, nah, 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 nah. But when you get piled into the car and you get taken to the property and you get into that room, which is dark and smelly, and you can hardly see yourself in there, and you are faced with the facts, a lot of them were like, I'm getting out of here. I think I've changed my mind. Too late. And then you'd see they'd come and they put their hands on the person, or they'd put their arm and say, no, I think you'll be fine, or they'd hold the neck, say, you'll be fine, you'll be okay. And then you see the changes in them, because obviously they don't want their food source to bolt out the front door and run down the street saying there's a vampire in the house. No. So that's what they do. So the sweat in the hands and the sweat around the body also contains, it's like, what is that? Is it called lidocaine? Something like, you get like the lidocaine patches to put on your back, and that for when you like got a sore back, it's almost like a calmer. And then what would happen is they would start kissing. They'd start kissing because the saliva is the big thing. The saliva acts as an agent, like an anesthetic. So what it will do is, as he's kissy 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 lick lick lick, he's giving out that energy, plus the saliva is making that side, that's the side that they want, it's making that side completely and utterly asleep. So it'll act as an anesthetic. It's almost like having an injection in the teeth. It's the same thing. And then it gives the person that level of euphoria. Because the first time I heard them all giggling, I would think, why are they giggling? So I'd peek through the door to see, why are they giggling? Well, they're giggling because they've had this neck completely put to sleep, and then they have this euphoria. It's like they've taken a whole bunch of whatever substances are out there, and they start, it's as if you get giggle weed or something like that nowadays. It's the same thing. They just think it's very funny. And then that would allow all of this area to be completely and utterly asleep. And then that's when you see the teeth arrive. Because when they start realizing and smelling the essence, and smelling that it's nearly ready for them to get their food, that's when the teeth come in. The teeth are not there all the time. That's why, when I see people sometimes putting on fangs and all those sort of things, I think, well, actually, if you knew the real ones, you would not, unless you knew that what you were talking to is a vampire. They look extremely normal, scarily normal. They don't walk around with their fangs out. The fangs do not always come out they come out literally just before they're about to go in for the bite. And the bite, those fangs are razor sharp. And when it goes into the neck, it just creates enough of a hole there for them because you'll see they'll put the fangs in, they'll open a vein or open the artery, and then that will come to the surface, and then they will do the sucking. So that's a bit of a misconception. The fangs are not always in use. They're there to open up the vein, to open up the artery, so that what comes up to the surface will come through the two holes. That's what they're there for. Then the suction will be what draws it up to that area and pulls it out. And that's why it's just two small holes. Resembles a spider bite. If you look at a spider bite, sometimes a spider bite can look very similar to a vampire bite, because that's what they do. They will just open two holes. That's all it is, not more. Because if you ended up cutting into these particular ones either side, the amount that gushes out because of our heart beating, the amount that would gush out would be way too much. Could you imagine? It would be too much, way too much, way too much. So that's why it's just two small holes, the size of the person's mouth. So it's like 1-on-1, and that would be it. And if you look at individuals that have maybe been a volunteer, shall we say somebody was a volunteer, and as a young person, and that in their older age, that person experienced an issue with their blood pressure, or their issues with their whatever's happening within their body, and went to the hospital, and they did a Doppler scan of these main arteries. They would be able to pick up on the scan what was happening with those arteries, and those arteries would show medically, clinically, would show that those arteries in the neck would have been interfered with. So you would have one of the arteries would either show a function where the blood is maybe not flowing up or not flowing down, whichever way it's meant to go in these things, I'm not sure. But it would show that there's either a break in it, or maybe a deviation. There would be a problem in that, because it's something that's come from the outside, gone into the jugular, right into that main area, and interrupted the flow. If you think about it logically, interrupted the flow, taken some of the flow, and then extracted itself out, which would have given it time to close up. And there are many people that have gone to doctors and said, there's something wrong with me. I don't feel great. I feel tired all the time, or I've got this issue. And when they've looked to see whether there's an issue with the blood flow, with the Doppler scanning the neck and scanning the main arteries, they have found a major issue in the arteries for that reason.
So do the doctors know that this is happening, though? I mean, if they're seeing that there's an interruption there and they're not actually connecting the dots, because that would just make them too weird, right?
I don't think they connect the dots. And also, I think that a lot of individuals if I think about those women, I was very young, so what would they be now? If somebody was like 25, whatever, in the 60s, they're going to be getting on a bit nowadays. And I think a lot of those individuals, part of them are not going to want to be sharing what they were doing when they were youngsters and maybe being a bit silly. And also they know that if they were to share that experience, let's face it, how many people are actually, particularly a clinical person, there is no way a clinical person, absolutely no way a clinical person is going to believe or agree or even give voice room to somebody that says, well, actually, what you're looking at with my issues with my jugular veins, this is what happened to me when I was young. No one's going to believe that. Hell no.
Oh, of course they don't, Beverli. No. You're just a little liar. You're just a little kitty with a very, very fertile imagination.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's true. I know. When I was running, every time I ran away, and I only did it a few times because I kind of realized after about the second or third time, I just said, you know what, don't bother about it, because you know what, no one's gonna believe you what you're saying anyway. But the second time that I actually ran into a church, and I told the priest, this is what I'm seeing. This is what's happening to me. This is what is happening. Please, Father, please believe me. And he was like, he says, no, I know who your dad is. And what did he say? Oh, he's a diamond of a man. He's a diamond of a man. He's, pillar of the community. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm stuffed. And I was. And he just said, no. He says, you're just going through a bad period, go back home and I'm sure it'll be fine. And, didn't, just totally washed it and pushed it away. So, yeah, no one's going to believe any of that. And that's how it is throughout society. People don't believe in these things until they see one in front of you. And I would imagine that if there were, and there are some vamps that are considering coming forward now. But I think that there's two things they're going to have to do. They're going to have to speak to the council and explain, I'm going to put myself at risk and I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to open myself up and I'm going to say what I need to say and let's see what happens. And if they end up being hunted, then so be it. But the council will still have to approve that. The second thing would have to be the elders. The elders would have to say, well, what are you going to say? How are you going to say it? Where is this going to be? Are you writing a book? What are you doing? How are you going to show them, i.e. the cattle, the feeders, us lot, how are you going to show them what is your stance going to be and what happens if they hunt you down? And that's what they'd have to do. Because they have their own hierarchy. They're going to have to stick to what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do.
Isn't it interesting that you were saying earlier on pink rose water is what repels them, and also what kills them? The only thing that really kills them is a stake in the heart.
You can chop their heads off. You can chop their heads off. That kills
can you chop their head off?
Oh yeah, you can chop their head off quite easily. The stake is a good one, or anything. Doesn't necessarily have to be wood. It can be anything. As long as you get it through and you pin them to the floor, then generally that will stop them quite easily. But yeah, I prefer to think of decapitation. I would reckon that's the best one, because if you keep two parts far apart, yeah, that'll do it. That'll definitely do it. Also,
it's just
yeah. Go ahead. Also, I think that people do need to realize that a lot of what Hollywood has put forward is just a way of providing a false sense of security, like thinking that the all of the vamps can't take sunlight. That's not true. Yes, if you're a newly created one and you're a new vamp, I would say yes. But I have seen over the years, I have seen those that are 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 years old. They have a way in which they can manage to go out in the sunlight for a certain period of time. Yes, they're fully covered. They have gloves and etc. And they will go out a lot more in winter than they will in the summer, because that's very obvious. Then you can be covered and you can look like that you've got, your snow coat on and your hood. And if it's snowing out, you've got your umbrella up. So those that are, so I would say over 500 years old to be safe, maybe even 350, 400, you can see that they have that immunity to the sun. So that is one of them. The second aspect where Hollywood has said that they can't come into your house unless they're invited. That's BS. They can get in anywhere that they want to get in. because their background and their energetics is demonic, and demons can go wherever they want to go. They can go wherever they want to go. They're not going to wait for you to say, yes, please do come in. Rubbish. No, they can pitch up wherever they want to pitch up. Don't for 1 second think that that's right. Don't let Hollywood take you down a different path. No, they can, like a demon can pitch up anywhere. They can pitch up anywhere, and they don't turn into bats. They do not turn into bats. That's also a lot of nonsense. They can't shapeshift. They can't change. They can change the entity that's within them, like in demonic possession. Same thing. They can have a different demon working through them. Yes, they can do that, but they can't completely shapeshift into a bat. Not possible. They also cannot turn into smoke. Also rubbish. No. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm the worst person to take to movies, I swear, because if that I sit there and say rubbish, that's rubbish. Talk to the screen, that's nonsense. That's not the way it is, So I'm the worst one to take to a movie. But then I look and I just start laughing. I think, really, you're going to now put that BS out there and let people try to believe, the Hollywood fables and folklore? No, that's not how it is.
Makes sense as well, because the fact that yes, the whole situation with them and the sun.
Yeah.
So again, having come from the underworld, the underbelly, the dark side, but again, and I would imagine, let's think about it like this: if their food source was humans, okay. And as you were saying to us in some of the previous shows, it can take about 18 months for the transition to take place. So gradually, because as they absorbing another human being's blood, their DNA, their spirit, their energy, their life force, so they also become more conditioned to operating more in the sun, which is what a human being can do quite easily.
Yeah.
So that is why nowadays it would make sense to me, rather than when was Bram Stoker's book written 500 years ago, whatever it was, right? Then maybe the transition was still early. They couldn't be in the sun yet. Now they actually can, because they've adapted more, because they've just been sucking human beings' blood. Oh my God, I can't even think about that. Oh.
But it's not just, sometimes it's not just humans. Sometimes it's animals as well. There has been a necessity, particularly if maybe one of the carers didn't get to them in time, then they would have to make shift. They'd have to find a different way. So you'd find that cats in the area were disappearing. So guess where they ended up? So that's, whatever opportunistic feeding or opportunistic hunting would have happened.
There's really nothing classy about them, right? I mean, they'll just take anything. It's like a street guy, a hobo, just drinking any kind of wine he can get his hands on. So there's no like, okay, I prefer to drink from my feeder because I know that she has the right blood type for me. So even if I've got to like sit and practice patience for a little while. Right?
Yeah, O positive is my favorite group that I like. Yeah, that's it. That's common, by the way. They prefer O positive.
Oh gosh, that was so disgusting. I mean, anyway, interesting. King Charles, is he a vamp? Because he's made comments about him having lineages to
Vlad the
Transylvania.
Impaler.
Yeah, Vlad the Impaler. Yeah. So, in your experience, and I mean, I know that you have had royal experience. Can you tell us if he's a vamp?
He's not a vamp. No, he's not a vamp. He's not a vamp. I will say though that the vampire that is in charge of Istanbul, is directly related, bloodline wise, to Vlad the Impaler. So that particular entity, I'm going to call it an entity, not a being, that entity that's running Istanbul does relate right back to Vlad the Impaler. So you never know, he might have some connections with the British royalty, possibly. But no, King Charles is not a vampire.
Okay. Well, that's a relief. I mean,
Yeah, well,
I'm
maybe
not sure.
not. Maybe
I'm going
not.
to say,
Could
I'm
be
not
something
sure.
else. I would rather have
I'm
him
going
being
to
a
say,
vamp. Rather have him being a
because-
vamp than what he actually is.
gosh, those fat little fingers of his, those like sausage fingers. Who wants those things touching you? That's enough to give you absolute nightmares for the rest of your
Relief.
life. Let's change the subject right now.
So funny.
Is the inundation of vampires in our culture a way of getting us to identify with them or think they're cool so we become unwitting familiars in a sense? That makes a lot of sense to me because, again, it's not just a blood connection, right, Beverly? It's not just the feeding of the blood, it's the life force, it's the magnetism, it's the sex magic. And that's what I wanted to say because there must be a lot of sex magic. Because what we must remember, as what I've also heard from a lot of survivors, sex magic is not about actual physical intercourse. That's like a teeny part of it. What these guys do is they literally, what the magicians or whatever it is, the witches do, is they'll steal literally the person's kundalini through tantric sex. So they'll be literally having an energetic orgasm with someone that can last up to a week, that powers that magic. So it's not about having intercourse with the child or the feeder, right? But more about the euphoric state that brings. And that's then powered by the dark magic. I don't know. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think that you're right with that. And also, let's go back to what I'd said earlier about the sweat and the sweat beads of sweat and what those sweat beads contain. And those beads of sweat, like the saliva of the vampire, contain it's an analgesic and antiseptic as well as an anesthetic. So you've got that as well. So the moment that person starts touching the female person all over the body, or in the opposite way, the female with the male body starts touching, that means that analgesic, the antiseptic, as well as an anesthetic through their hands, that is going all over the body. And then when they start licking and utilizing their tongue, you have the same thing. The same as what I said about the neck, with them licking the neck. And you will see that they where there's movies where somebody's done a bit of research or spoken to somebody that knows a lot about this, they will get them licking and kissing and licking because it's the saliva and the sweat from the hands and the sweat from their bodies that causes this.
So if they've already been touching the
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
They've already got that kind of
Euphoria
thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they're licking, oh my gosh, that's just wild.
And when you think about, where the licking ends to, and it goes, what I'm saying, the other bit down the bottom, your front bottom, not your back bottom. When it gets, you see, when
With
you
those
start
teeth.
thinking about it, well, yeah, but the thing is that the teeth are not there. The teeth are not there. The teeth don't come out until it's time for feeding. And for them to push their teeth out, it means that they're ready to bite. So if you see a vamp with his teeth out, run like hell, because he's decided your dinner, your lunch, and your breakfast for tomorrow morning. So and this is why a lot of bites sometimes ends up being on the inner thigh.
I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm just going to bite you on the inner thigh. and and that's what they're doing. I mean, cunnilingus is one of those that they're going to be licking like hell, because they're going to create that whole area is going to go to sleep, and then when they're ready, they can just go in and get the fangs out and just bite you.
Stop it! Stop it! Every time you say bite, I just can't.
Oh dear, it's so funny. Yeah, so inundation of vampires into our culture, yes, is trying to get us to identify with them. But a lot of this information that's been sent out, the Hollywood, is trying to see them as being cool. I think there was a series, I think it was called Twilight. The Twilight series, I mean, that just pushed vampirism, into mainstream and made it cool and made it sexy. But he was a day walker. He wasn't only out at night. So he must have been a few hundred years old, because he was a day walker. And if you have a look, there was a pairing or a mating between a human person and a vampire, because she actually ended up producing a child. If you remember in the Twilight one, I thought, that's very interesting. So yeah, I was quite critical about that, but nonetheless, I just thought, well, at least they're getting some of the message out. But yes, our society, there are a lot more, but there are also a lot more individuals that are bloodletting, and that they're also in a position where they are drinking, life force, but are not vampires. So you've got different things going on there.
I'm telling you, these guys, I mean, stranger than strange, this is like really stranger than strange. I mean, it's insane, actually.
If you'd seen the one we saw last Sunday, not this Sunday gone yesterday, the last week, oh my God, the one that we saw when we went into the Lion's Den in Pensacola, he was quite spectacular. And I said to him in my mind, I said, I know you can hear me. Say something to me, because then at least, because if you say something to me, I can then speak to you freely. And he just turned around and he looked like this. I thought, yeah, but he didn't. He wasn't prepared to open up and have a discussion. But he was a very spectacular one. He must have been a good few hundred years old. Not a line on him anywhere. No stubble, no moustache, nothing. Perfect skin, perfectly flat everywhere. Unbelievable. But you could see by the way that he was dressed and what he looked like, he must have been maybe late 30s, early 40s. Didn't look it though. Not a line anywhere. Absolutely perfect. So yes, there are a lot of them around, and they will know. And I believe that when I was doing the work that I was doing with my handler, they would actively look for particular individuals that had specific blood types, because the group that we were involved with, they had a preference. So it's like saying, oh, I prefer grilled fish, and then other person will say, well, I prefer a nice steak, like Texas, I prefer a nice steak. It's the difference of the two. So they were particularly looking for them. They wanted more of the O positive as opposed to any of the others. And they didn't want rhesus negative. So they didn't want RH negative. They preferred the positive, because that was a lot easier for them to consume. So that was like dessert in a way. And the other ones were more difficult. So yeah, they were very strange. I didn't realize at the time that most of the individuals were of a particular blood group. And I think that's also with me why I was quite safe for a period, is because I have a very rare blood type. They weren't overly keen. So I was like,
does it taste different though?
They do.
And they smell different blood types. And
yeah, they do. They taste different and they smell different.
And if the people have been vaccinated, I'm wondering, from just childhood vaccines. I know there weren't jabs and anything there.
No,
but
not
from childhood vaccines and things. Were they? I mean, was there a thing about that, or did they mind that? And if
So
they
none of
actually
the
took blood
70
from someone that was sick, can that person, let's say they take blood from someone who's got or AIDS. Let's say they take blood from someone who's got AIDS. Can they get AIDS then too, or how does that
I
work?
don't think so. HIV/AIDS was not around during that time, so there was never anything like that. I don't even remember. I think there was smallpox was around in those years. I remember in the 60s that was around, and I think that that was something that there was a concern. But I think that because of the way they were in the hierarchy of issues, and that smallpox was down here, and what they are is right at the top. So I don't think that it would make any difference. There were a lot of people in those years because it was like, the 60s individuals they weren't actively going and doing what they needed to do as far as making sure the children had X, Y, and Z before they went to school. And these young women were, I mean, they would have been, let me just think, 40s, 56. So they would have been born after the war. So a lot of them would have been sort of 1946, 1947, 1950, that sort of age group, if you know what I mean. Because then in the 60s, then they would have been 19, 20, 24, 25. That was the general, up to about 30. So the person that I was coming into contact must have been born just after the war, because that's how old they were in the late 60s. So they wouldn't have, in those years particularly, there wasn't this big organization of, well, get your child to the GP, do this, do that. It was still, everything was jerry built, and urgent housing, and plywood housing, and housing that was made out of precast housing. Everybody was rushing around after the war trying to build homes for the people that were coming back from the war and those that survived the bombings. So from that point of view, those people that were servicing and becoming familiars for those that were transferring into their new selves, they wouldn't have had to go through that. So it's probable. I don't think most of them would have had any inoculations or would have been part of that, just purely because of the time frame in those years. Well, the things were very different then.
Okay, here's another question. Are vampires a form of shapeshifters, and are they similar to Nagas from the higher hellish planets in the Vedas? Not sure if you can answer that, babe. What's your take there?
I don't think they are a form of shapeshifters from what I've seen. I can only talk about what I've seen personally. It's a very good question. They could be similar to the Nagas. It's possible. I haven't seen one that looks like that yet. All of the ones that I'm aware of are the ones that have been created, or those that were from one particular, what they call a master, that would have been trying very carefully to change individuals that wanted to change. And this was also the free will of that individual to change. So they are very definitely, they were at one point human and have just changed. So the outer skin or the outer area remains the same. They don't shape shift into something else. They always
Yeah,
have the outer skin, the outer
more.
body always looks like what they were, and they carry that for hundreds of years. This doesn't change. The only thing that changes is their
Yes,
name. So when they create a fake change, so in other words, when they get to a certain age, sort of 70 or 80 years old, they then leave all their wealth and everything they have to themselves, give themselves and say, this is my son or whatever. And then they go away to another area, go to Japan or China or wherever, and then go into the mountains for a year or so, and then come back and then have a slightly different look, and then come back as their son or come back as their daughter. That's how they do it.
gosh, yeah. So it's that whole Very interesting. Okay, well, are there vampires located in every continent, and where are they located? I know we've mentioned that before.
Yes, there are
Why are the
vampire
French?
swarms in every single continent around the world. Every continent around the world has a swarm of vampires. Every single one of them.
Who are the ones here, Bev? Who are the ones here?
The ones down in South Africa, there is one group that is in Cape Town that I'm aware of. They tend to hunt along Plain Street, I think it's called. Is it Plain Street? Plain Street in the Cape, near the harbour. I think it's Plain Street. Is it Plain
Main
Street?
Street, yeah.
I think it's called Plain Street. Plain Street. Um, and there are those in the Cape area that have got some very, very nice apartments that are extremely exclusive. They have their own elevators or lifts. You can't get into them for love or money. There is one that is is a owner of a very big club. There was another swarm in Johannesburg as well. So those are the two main areas that I'm aware of that I would be very careful with. I certainly would not go into CBD, Central Business District in Johannesburg. Nope, 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 and definitely not at night. No way. No. No, and that's just me.
Well, I don't think anyone was going to CBD nowadays. I mean, when you were living in Joburg, still CBD was zhuzh. I mean, it was nice. I mean,
It was nice. Yeah.
we used to go and party, and there was very. I mean, all the cool clubs were in the middle of Joburg,
Café de
right?
Paris was there. Oh yes.
Yeah, and Hillbrow and Rocky Street, all those areas. I mean, those were like the cool place. We used to hang out there all the time.
Yeah, of
I'm
course
so
we
happy
did.
I had those memories of Joburg as well. I'll tell you, they were so fun in the 80s.
Yeah,
We
and
had
also
such fun.
it was fun. And do you remember all the places that used to stay open? You used to be able to go into the middle of
Yes,
Hillbrow, and you could go have a shawarma or a pita or have souvlaki or go and get yummy.
bimbos.
Yeah, yummies.
Hillbrow was the only one that had bimbos, and it was
Exactly.
right opposite Bella Napoli, where I was always on a Friday night. We were always at Bella Napoli on a Friday night in
So
Hillbrow.
we must have
Across
bumped
the
into
road was
each other.
bimbos.
Yeah, because
I'm
the
sure I
Bellas,
saw you there,
I'm
Beverly.
sure that
Yeah,
we would have must have. Yeah, I used to go Bella Napoli all the time. I used to finish work,
totally.
pop down
That
to
was so
Bella
cool.
Napoli, and then dance and then come out of there and go and have some munchies, go to Bimbos, go to the various areas, have a shawarma, only place that you could eat, and then go back to your apartment and end up getting there 7 o'clock in the morning and go to sleep. Yeah, I remember those days.
You party
So
all
much.
night. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was fun.
Anyway, that was fun. Wow. So, well, I mean, this is absolutely fascinating again. Um, with all this, sure, celebrities, it just makes me think again. Nicolas Cage is apparently a well-known celeb. Johnny Depp as well. Of the ones that we know that have been spoken, people have spoken about on these platforms. So that's obviously a big thing with them, just a whole nother way, right, of uh, getting blood.
It is, unfortunately, it
Like you
is
just
another way of getting blood. But the interesting thing is, I've heard through the grapevine over the years, and this was, when was it? It was about 2006. I was told directly from somebody that has played a role he played a role in a movie about a vampire, and he played the role in this movie of a vampire. And we were talking about other things, and then this story came up, and I'd said, well, you were playing a role as an actor. How did you get to the point where you were able to portray the path that you were in so well because of the things that you'd said. And he kind of looked at me as if say, well, hang on, how do you know that that's correct? And I said, how did you get that background? Because most actors will do like their research and read up and whatever. And he actually turned around and he said, well, he says, I was lucky enough to be introduced to somebody who claimed to be an actual vampire. So everybody else around the table at the time, you could just see them going, oh my God, this is in London at the time. And because we were busy working on something else. We were working on, unfortunately, there was somebody from the 7-7 group that had got arrested, and they needed a really big injection of funds to be able to get that person out of where they were. And they needed some very famous people to get behind these individuals to help them get out of the situation they were in. And that's what these people were doing around the table. We were all trying to help 7th of July London bombings 2005 survivors, be able to get forward and do something with their lives and move away from being just survivors to thriving. And that's what these people were doing. They were in London at the time, and he and one or two other very, very famous people were around the table. And he'd said, and he looked directly at me and he said, and at the time, I must admit, he was very scruffy looking. He hadn't shaved and his hair was all messy, and he looked at me and said, yeah, he says, I managed to talk to somebody who claimed to be a real vampire. And I said to him, well, were you lucky enough to get to see his teeth? And he said, no, I wasn't lucky enough to see his teeth, because he said, if my teeth come out, I need to feed. I thought, and that's when I thought, sure, this person is definitely not telling porcupines, is not fibbing. This is true. Because if he didn't see them, that's fine, because most of the time you don't see them. It's only when they're getting ready to feed. And this is going back now, 2005, 2006. That's a while ago. That's over 20 years ago. So he did just by that one. And he looked at me and I said, well, that's factual. And then we carried on with the rest of the meeting. But yeah, that one, yes, he has met a real vampire.
Well, I just hope I haven't.
And I don't think even if you did, you probably wouldn't have known. You could have been dancing in Bella Napoli and Joburg and, brushed the shoulders with one or two of them without realizing it. You wouldn't have known, because their teeth are not out all the time. They're not. They only come out exactly. when they're ready to chow down, literally.
Listen, but if you go walking around in Cape Town, in Green Market Square, right?
Yeah.
There were all those, and especially there's like a lot of Nigerians and things hanging around there. Like it's other like more North African people, right? That have come to Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
Beverli, you see the strangest looking entities and aliens attached to those guys. They've got the weirdest vibe going on there. It's crazy if you can see, obviously, with your third eye. Cape Town's got a lot of, I don't know what they're called. I don't know if they're vamps or anything, but they're just bizarre. They're really.
Oh, that's going to be bizarre. Fun. I hope I can get to see that, because when I was there, it was all very normal. I used to actually go rummaging for antiques at that very market that you're talking about. I used to love that market. It was great. I'd find teapots and all sorts of incredible things. So it's changed quite a lot. That's going to be fun. But most people are more scared of me nowadays than I'm scared of them. Most people, we went over the weekend. We went down to Panama City Beach, and we went to a group of us that went looking at different things. And there was this amazing plant and crystals, beautiful crystal place, and we went in there. And the first thing the lady did that was standing behind the counter, you could see she was looking at me. I thought, oh, here we go. And, she made a couple of comments, and I thought, yeah, that's about right. This is what happens to me. People they just feel this energy, and they think, oh, my goodness, what is this, So we just all joked, and we said, oh, well, she's a bit of a ghost. Don't worry about it. So then we it's the energy that trails behind me that causes the ruckus.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I've had people that don't want to give me a ride because they're scared I'm going to get psychic on them. I'm like, buddy, you got to
Exactly.
pay me big bucks for that, okay? Why would I want to be looking into your energy anyway? I don't think so. Don't flip and
Not
flatter
today,
yourself.
Josephine. Not today.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, Beverly,
Yes.
wow, as always, fantastic fun. Is there anything else you have for us tonight before we call it a day and allow you to go and do your things there with your Americanos?
With the Americanos, yeah, that's a good word for it. I think the one thing I do want to say is that over the next couple of weeks, my remote viewing group, they are busy beavering away and working at doing a remote view of South Africa. So we'll see how that
Yes,
goes. Everybody's agreed to participate. There's not everyone in the whole group because, as you know, there's like over 100 people around the world. Some people are in Australia and the times just don't make any sense. So next week's show, we're going to utilize that as a remote view on energies of South Africa. And that'll cover everything. It'll cover politics, it will cover economics, it will cover spiritual aspects, it will cover positioning, it will cover off-worlders, it will cover all sorts of things. Whatever the remote viewers are picking up, that's what they'll share. And you very kindly said it would be nice to invite some of them on to come and explain what they are seeing. So we will be doing that. And that particular there's a remote
nice.
viewing group that happens every Friday. And that particular remote viewing group is free of charge. If you want to come and join and learn how to remote view, of course, come and join us because it's lots of fun.
Well, we're going to be doing that on our other planet, on our other planet as well. Listen to me, other channel as well. It's going to be another planet. I mean, if that's not a Freudian slip, then I don't know what is. Anyway, we're going to be definitely doing that also on solutions. Um, when hopefully by the end of this month as well, guys, I'm going to be launching the new stuff on solutions as well. Um, yeah, as I said, it was meant to be done already, but then the book came along. So guys, go check it out. I'm so excited to be launching the book on 10/10. That's Thursday. The Honeycomb Tales Adventures of the Ankara Field. It is so cool. It is my first kids' book that I dreamed up. I had no idea I was going to write it. It just arrived unexpectedly and welcomely, that's for sure. And I just started. And yeah, and now I'm ready to share it. It's so
It's the
cool. And
downloads. That's what you had to download this, Chanti. This was always part of your energy path and your soul. You were going to download this amazing message because it's not just a message for the little ones, it's a message for everyone. It's
totally.
shown in a different way so that everybody can understand it and take it to their souls and their hearts.
It really is. It really is. And this, I got to tell you, is just the beginning.
It
There's
is.
so much because we're doing Ankara Field for the adults as well. After that, don't worry, we got masterclass coming on.
Ooh.
We got all sorts of amazing things planned for you guys. Obviously on Aquarius Rising Africa, we speak about some really shitty things, and I know it hurts our hearts many a day.
Yeah.
And but obviously on solutions, there we find the solutions. There we, as you're all seeing, not all hives are honey hives. We have the dark nest too, where wasps and hornets and killer bees live, and they steal light.
They do. Oh my word, yes. And isn't that just the truth? I think also solutions would benefit from doing something on the other one, the what they call Bigfoot, and there's another
Yes,
one, I can't remember what it is. But yes, is to look at that because there's been across here in America and Canada over the last couple of weeks, there's a huge, huge chaotic time that's been come about because Nancy, who was a lady that was up in the mountains of Canada. She actually saved a mother with her baby. And this has gone absolutely viral. Everyone's trying to find her little cabin up in the mountains in the snow. And there's pictures and there's all sorts of things that have come out about Nancy, who has since passed away. But all of her story has now come out, and everybody's talking about it. It's quite amazing. So I've got a couple of individuals that would be happy to come on to Solutions in the future at the end of the month. And what they do is every time they come into contact with the Alawan, when they go back home, they actually do like a quick AI of what they saw, and they will share. Are happy to come on the show and share what they've seen, what it looks like, and share their own images, which is AI generated, but this is as close as it can be to what they've actually seen. And these are eyewitness accounts. So I think that could be really fun.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And I know I've seen some of those little pickies, and I'm really looking forward to that as well. So, yeah. And is there anything else that you want to just say and round up with?
I'll round up with any individuals want to go through a personal session, by all means. Even though I'm in America, I still have sessions available. Not as many as I do generally when I'm in the UK, obviously because of the time difference, but there are definitely sessions still available. A lot of clearing sessions, soul connections, clearing and closing and moving things forward, because of course we've got all the energy from 3i Atlas at the end of this month and going into November. That's going to be awesome. And also, I'll let everyone know that I'm doing, I've been asked to come and do, I think it's 60 minutes talk as a guest. And that's in December. It will be in the UK. And that will be, I think it's called, what does he call it? It's like a next level disclosure. It's like the Edge. And that's a very big conference that's happening in December. So there's all sorts of things that are happening.
One of our other guests is also talking on that conference, Penny Bradley. She's also
is she
going to
on
be
there as well? Oh,
yeah,
good.
She's on there. I saw on the thing you sent me. Joe Smith wants to know how much a session in Zara. It's £40 for South Africans, Joe. £40. It's zero. That is such a good price. That is such a good price.
It's a reduced price for South Africa, because I know with the exchange rate, I think it's 24-1 or something ridiculous now. It's a lot.
It's 20-1.
Oh, really? Is okay. So it's gone down. Oh, well, at least it's better.
No, it's never been 24-1. It's always been sort of, no. It might actually, for the pound, it might be for the pound. I'm thinking dollar. I'm thinking dollar pound.
Yes, it might be. Yes. Yeah, I think it's quite high at the moment. I'm not sure why, but it seems quite high. But yes, of course.
Just because
you've survived another vampire talk, Chanti. You survived another vampire talk.
And I didn't have anyone's teeth in my neck.
No, you didn't. I can see you getting all curly.
Those vampy vibes.
You don't like them. Spray yourself with rose water.
Yes, I actually do have rose water that I spray on my face every day. So I think I'll do we'll definitely be doing some rose water for the vamps. Because they can't be doing anything that's anything to do with love. They can't do anything lovely. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, guys, as always, so fun to be hanging out with you, Beverli. So fun to be hanging out with you. I will see you all tomorrow with Jamie J, new viewer, very knowledgeable, fantastic in terms of her research on mind control, satanic ritual abuse, anything like that. So we're going to be having a really cool conversation tomorrow. So join us for that. And that's going to be at 7 o'clock Central Africa time, which is 45 minutes earlier than now. So 1 hour later than Beverly's show started, wherever that is in the world for you.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, go spray your holy rose water. I think they don't need holy water. We just got to give them rose water. We got to go get our bottles of rose water. I've got some aura spray here. Do you think that'll work? Do you think if I spray some aura spray, it'll work? Or does it have to be pink roses? Okay, we'll do pink roses instead. We've got to I think I'm gonna go definitely stock up on the rose water, keep the vamps away. So exactly, spray the hell
And
out
don't
of
worry
it.
about the garlic, because garlic is a natural blood thinner, and that's just creating a situation where it makes it easier for our life force to flow. So this is nonsense. Hollywood saying, oh, garlic, whatever. No, it's a blood thinner. It just makes it easier for them to have their meal with the taste of garlic to boot. It's ridiculous, I swear.
Yeah, yeah, garlic is vamp seasoning. Just spray that holy rose water. That's all you do. Spray the holy rose water.
Thank you
Good,
once
good,
again,
good.
Chanti. Good luck for the end of this week with your book. It's going to be awesome.
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, guys, I'll see you tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and all the days of the week. And up until then, stay cool, stay safe, and